everyone, it's Sarah. Welcome back to another video tutorial at Mrs. Lincoln's Inkin. Today I wanted to show you how I do this wax paper resist technique. And what that is it's actually the backing of this card here and of this card here. I love this because, as we all know, I am obsessed with homemade DSP, and what better way to incorporate some of your embossing folders to give them a new kind of look than the wax paper resist technique. So let's go ahead and get started. First, what you're going to need is an embossing folder of your choice, and I'm using the vintage wallpaper embossing folder in a piece of just normal wax paper. So what you want to do is you want to put your wax paper right inside your embossing folder. And you can go ahead and cut these edges off a little bit just so they're not hanging off quite as much. I don't like to cut my edges right up to my embossing folder. I like to give them a little leeway, but there's no need to have, you know, inches hanging out of your folder. So now we need to grab the Big Shot. Oh, it's heavy. And what we're going to do, because we're doing embossing, we want our bottom plate, we want both tabs open. So we just have the bottom surface, a clear plate, our embossing folder with our wax paper inside of it. You want to make sure that it's in there nice and good. And then our last clear plate. And then we're just going to run this through. Just like that. So get rid of our Big Shot here. Now once that's done and you take your wax paper out of your embossing folder, you are going to be able to see the embossed image right on the wax paper. So now the next step is to actually get it to resist onto a piece of glossy white cardstock. So I'm going to grab my trimmer real fast here, and I'm going to make my glossy cardstock the whole image of my card. So I'm going to cut it at 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. So I'm just going to give that a little trim right there like that. And then you're going to need a towel or some sort of soft surface. This is just a regular bathroom hand towel. And you're going to need an iron. And you want your iron to be on the hottest setting possible with no mist or steam or anything like that. You just want it to be super hot. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my glossy cardstock, and I'm going to have the glossy side upward, and then I'm going to take my wax paper, and the side where the ridges are puffed up, I'm going to put those down right on to my glossy cardstock. And then I'm going to fold my towel back over here, and then I'm going to iron it. And this might take a couple of minutes because you want to make sure that you get it nice and hot, because you want the image to resist from the wax paper to resist onto the glossy cardstock. So rub it all around, hold it down on there. Like I said, it might take a couple of minutes, but it's well worth it in the end. So we're just going to run this all over. My iron was telling me it was down too long. And I do want to apologize too for if I'm sniffling a lot or if my voice just sounds all kinds of weird. I think I'm coming down with a cold, so I'm trying really hard to sound as normal as possible. Alright, I think that should be good. And the reason why it's so important to make sure that this is as hot as it can be is because once the wax paper is used with the iron, you can't use it again. The wax paper is only a one-time use. So if you don't get it the way that you really want it, then you have to start all over again, which sometimes is okay. So now, once you peel your wax paper off of your card, you can actually see where the resist went onto the glossy cardstock. Isn't that neat? So now we're going to move our towel aside, and now we need our brayer and a color of your choice. And today I'm using the Wisteria Wonder, if I can talk. And what we're going to do is we're just going to ink our brayer up real good. And when using the brayer, remember we want to go up and roll. We don't want to go like this because then our brayer is not getting covered all the way around. So we want to lift and push. Make sure that we get it real good here. And then, oh, and I have a hair on mine. So we're just going to get that off of there. There we go. Alright, ink it up again. That probably would have been a cool look though. Alright, and then we're just going to brayer on our glossy cardstock. We can do it in all kinds of different, you know, up, down, diagonal. We just want to make sure that we get it good and covered. And you can do it as many times or as few times as you want. It all depends on the amount of color you want on your cardstock. So there we go. That looks good to me. So I'm going to put my brayer aside. So that's what it looks like right now. So now I'm going to take my towel and I'm just going to run over my glossy cardstock. And this is going to get rid of the extra ink that's on there. And then there's the end of your wax paper resist. So now it looks like the embossing folder. How cool is that? Awesome. So now I went ahead and pre-cut the base of my card, which is just a piece of Whisper White, cut it 4 1/4, or I'm sorry, 5 1/2 by 11, scored at 4 1/4. And I'm just going to adhere this on to my card base. This. There we go. And then I went ahead and cut out my decoration for the front of my card. I used the stamp set Elements of Style. I used that flower right there on a piece of Very Vanilla cut at 4 1/4 by 3 1/4, and I backed it with a piece of Elegant Eggplant cut at 4 1/2 by 3 1/2, and then I colored it in with some Copic markers, which I'll have all of those colors on my blog. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put this right in the middle here, and I actually think I'm going to use a couple of dimensionals instead of sticking it down with my snail. Just like that, and get the backs off here. There we go. So even though you can't see a ton of the background, it still gives it that nice little subtle, shiny DSP look. And there you go. That is the wax paper resist look. So I hope you enjoyed today's video. Until next time, happy inkin'!